Hello everyone, my name is Milica Utvic, and I chose my Socio-Cultural mini-teach presentation to cover the topic of race. Here are the table of contents for this presentation. To begin with, we're going to go over the history of race. The term race, used infrequently before the 1500s, was used to identify groups of people with a kinship or group connection. The modern-day use of the term race is a human invention. Race is a human-invented shorthand term used to describe and categorize people into various social groups based on characteristics like skin color, physical features, and genetic heredity. Race, while not a valid biological concept, is a real social construction that gives or denies benefits and privileges. Moving forward, racial stereotypes. Stereotypes are cognitive structures that contain the perceiver's knowledge, beliefs, and expectations about human groups. These cognitive constructs are often created out of a kernel of truth and then distorted beyond reality. Racial stereotypes are constructed beliefs that all members of the same race share given characteristics. These attributed characteristics are usually negative. People of color are most affected by racial stereotypes. Moving forward, negative racial stereotypes. Racial stereotyping and negative characteristics of people of African descent, which were created to justify the enslavement of Africans, continue to harm people and violate their human rights. Experts said school children faced indirect discrimination through negative stereotypes and imagery in teaching materials. States should ensure that children are taught the histories and cultures of people of African descent and the history of transatlantic trade in enslaved Africans, and make teaching culturally and linguistically relevant for children of African descent. Although experts suggested children are taught the histories and cultures of people of African descent, across the U.S., educators are being censored for broaching controversial topics. Since January 2021, researcher Jeffrey Sachs says 35 states have introduced 137 bills limiting what schools can teach with regard to race, American history, politics, sexual orientation, and gender identity. American students say that they still encounter racial stereotypes in their daily lives. PBS NewsHour student reporting labs collected testimonies about racism from the recent No Labels Attached project on misconceptions and stereotypes. In interviews with their peers, student journalists found teenagers grappling with a variety of racial misconceptions, ranging from annoying attitudes to deeply hurtful views. Several Asian and African American students reported racial slurs being said to them by faculty and peers. Next, we're going to go over some teaching tips. A successful learning environment requires equity in the classroom, or supporting the achievements of kids from diverse backgrounds and abilities. So here are some effective ways to promote equity. First is self-reflection. Confront your own biases and beliefs. Second, model equity, so your students can mirror appropriate language and behavior. Third, accommodate different learning styles. Understand how your students learn best. And fourth, let students be heard. Let your students' voices and their opinions be heard throughout discussions. In the case 6.1 Black Lives Matter, Ms. Simmons saw an opportunity to engage students in a conversation about the protests and racism in the local community. But when she mentioned her desire to raise these issues in class to colleagues, they discouraged her. "Stick to academics," one colleague said. Even though Ms. Simmons got negative feedback from her colleagues saying that she shouldn't talk about these matters within class, she followed She followed what she thought was right and saw an opportunity for her students to discuss important topics, and she let her students be heard. So here are the resources that I used throughout this presentation. I just wanted to say thank you for listening and following me throughout this topic. Thank you so much.